So far, I think the Office Olympics are going great, but I decided to delegate. Chuck gets to pick the next event.
What did Chuck decide to do for the next event?
We're going to do what?
Oh, no.
We're having an eating contest. I'm really going to do my research and get this one right. There's so many options when considering what to eat for an eating contest. You have taste, viscosity, carb content, and the general yumminess of the food. I just can't decide what to pick. I've got it. I've got the perfect food.
I brought on my eating pants for this.
I'm really proud of the effort our staff put into this, but in the end, it came down to the final two.
All right, it's time to see the final score. How many burgers did you eat this round? And how many for you?
Awesome. Good job. Wow.
Dude. In the end, we all had a great time and grew closer together.
I don't know why anybody would choose a different career than to be in church work. My kids often ask, Dad, what do you do during the week? I know what you do on Sunday, but what do you do during the week? And it's like plan videos like that. All right, we're going to double down on 1 Corinthians 9. This is a chapter that Pastor Chuck went to last week, and without knowing, we chose the same thing. I guess it's the Spirit's work sometimes that puts this on us. I didn't realize Chuck was using this passage until last week on Sunday. Paul says, to the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all people so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and I make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. This is God's word for us today. Now, when Paul wrote these words to the Corinthian Christians, he assumed that they all knew about the games. The Olympic Games took place in Greece every 4 years without interruption, from 776 BC until they were suppressed by Emperor Theodosius in AD 393. That's 1,169 years straight. Everyone knew about the games. That's why Paul uses it as a metaphor. So he didn't have to explain what he was talking about as he introduced the gospel to them. Now, the events have really changed over the years. The original games included just 6 events: wrestling, jumping, javelin, and discus throwing, and most importantly for Paul's metaphor, which he uses quite often, both racing and boxing. Now, the International Olympic Committee raised a few eyebrows recently when it announced that breakdancing would be at the Paris Olympics in 2024. But that's not the first time an unexpected event made it into the Games. Pistol dueling, featured as an unofficial 1906 games that was held in Athens as a male-only event. The competitors shot at plastered dummies. Pistol dueling returned as a demonstration event at London's games in 1908, and this time the competitors actually shot at each other. But nobody died. They used wax bullets, and they were wearing a suit as well as a helmet. And then during the 1900 games, more than 300 pigeons were shot and killed in the live pigeon shooting event. I have a feeling that's probably not coming back to the Olympics anytime soon, unless it's held where I'm from in Texas. Probably will be. Now, our first value here at Messiah, and the value I want to focus on today, is found people, find people. Christians share the gospel. Found people, find people. And as Paul says in our passage today, I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. Paul understood this from the very beginning of the church. Found people, find people. This is what Christians do. Christians share the gospel with people. And Paul was willing to do whatever it takes to save people. Now, he knew in his efforts he might not be able to save everyone, but he would try his hardest to save some. He was willing to put aside his own personal preferences to relate with people and to share the gospel with them. Remember, Paul was a Jew. He was a Jew who was a Pharisee, who was very knowledgeable with the law. He was somebody who ate kosher, who loved Jewish customs. But when God called him to go reach the Greek world, Paul became as a Greek. He would dress like them, eat like them, talk like them, use their philosophy to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, we live in an increasingly secular world, and yet Jesus says the harvest is plentiful. In our secular world today, the harvest is plentiful. In a day and age where there were only a few hundred followers of Jesus, he told his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. The workers are few. And if you look up here and you think the workers means me, or Chuck, that's true, but it also includes all of you. And when the workers can see themselves as workers, the church just takes off. Our problem is not a bad crop, but rather too few Christian leaders who are willing to love others and to share the faith. Early on, the church really debated this. Do we really want to take the gospel to Greek Christians? They debated it. Peter was debating it. Paul was debating it. And finally, James, one of the early disciples and the first leader of the church, James stood up. And in Acts 15, he says, we should not make it difficult for those who are turning to God. Let's not make it difficult. They have questions. They have doubts. Sure. But don't make it difficult. And that's one of our goals here at Messiah. We don't want it to be difficult. We want you to be able to invite your friends and know that we're going to be sensitive to their needs, that we care about them, that people can come out with doubts and we can wrestle with that together and we can pray about that together. We don't want it to be difficult for them. And again, at that time, there were just a few hundred Christians, but found people went out to find people, and it grew and it grew. The disciples didn't sit in their house churches and wonder, why aren't lost people going to church? Why aren't they coming over to our church? No, they understood that the church has to go to them. You didn't go to church. You were supposed to become the church. And I think if the Christian church today could find that again, it'd be beautiful. God didn't ask lost people to go to church. He told the church to go to them. And that's why we say around here that the new front door of the church is the front door of your home. It's in your home that they can first meet Christians. It's in your home they can first hear about Jesus. This is the one switch. If we can make it, it would be beautiful. Stop making it difficult for those who are turning to God. Paul was willing to do that and much else so that people could be saved. So number one, found people, find people. Number two, we need to train your faith to win the gold. This is what Paul's teaching us. He says that everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. What does that look like for us? What does that look like at Messiah for a Christian to say, I want to go into strict training with my faith. I want to grow my faith. Well, we look at our discipleship process here at Messiah. Love, learn, live. We learn to love God. We worship God here. We learn about God. We learn about our neighbors. We learn about the world around us, and we live out our faith. We are love, learn, live Christians. Maybe some of us are good at the love part. We love worship. Maybe we like to learn lots of things. We're really into Scripture, but are we living out our faith? We need to make sure that we have all three. Number two, we have to pray for what God prays for. What does God pray for the world? What does God pray for our neighbors? We have to learn to pray for what God prays for. And the third thing is you have to unleash your superpower. See, the Bible says that all of us have a superpower. And our superpower is this. It's found in John 13. It's where Jesus gives us the most beautiful form of love. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. Don't love your neighbor as yourself. No, go way beyond that. Learn to love people the way that Jesus loves you. And number three, what's our goal? Our goal is to pass out gold medals. 1 Corinthians 9, they do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. And that's our code word for today. Our code word for today, kids, is gold. Because Christians are to pass out gold crowns, gold medals. We pass out gold to the world. We don't play in a sport where there's only one gold and the next place gets a silver and then a bronze and then everybody else gets nothing. No, in the Christian faith, everybody can win gold. That's Jesus' promise to us. When I first went to grad school, my plan was to be a foreign missionary. And during my third year in grad school, I studied at Cambridge University in England. And a visiting leader of the Lutheran Church met me and suggested maybe I should do mission work in the U.S. I should do U.S. mission work. I explained to him I couldn't because the American church always seemed to be against the culture, and American churches didn't care about lost people. And he told me it's true. That's why we have to plant new churches that have a different DNA, and they actually care about the lost. You actually have to start new churches if you want to reach new people. Whichever sense as I've thought about that, it's really broken my heart. Why, if we have thousands and thousands of churches, will we have to plant new churches to reach lost people? It didn't make any sense. We have thousands and thousands of churches. Why would that be the case? Because Jesus called the church to be the active body of Christ in the world. But it seems that we'd rather have the church serve us than for us to go out and to serve others. We go to churches, it seems, that agree with our preferences, not our theology. We often go to churches that give us our preferences. And so therefore, the only way to reach lost people is to start new churches with that in their DNA. I also think during that time, we got our metaphor wrong about pastors. In Ephesians 4, it says that Christ has called leaders to be apostles and prophets and evangelists and pastors and teachers. And what the church in America did is it reduced it to a pastor is merely a shepherd. A pastor is a shepherd that takes care of good sheep. We reduce the metaphor to only shepherd. But the thing is, we also need apostles and evangelists and prophets and teachers in the church. We got our metaphor wrong. And so churches easily become country clubs, and their only goal is to serve members. Or churches became nursing homes that got residents ready for the end of life. I think the church was called to be a maternity ward, giving birth to fresh, new faith. Because the church was called to pass out gold medals. We get a crown that will last forever, Paul says. And these are crowns we can give to others. No longer is there one gold medal. Christ died to save all people. They can all win gold. They can all win. And so Paul says, I'm not running aimlessly. I'm not boxing the air. I am putting up a fight to win this crown for others. He's fighting so that no one should be lost. One of the actors I really love today is Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt won the MTV Generation Award. And when he gave his victory speech, he said this, I'm going to cut to the chase, and I'm going to speak to you, the next generation, because this is the MTV Generation Award. And then he said, I accept the responsibility as your elder. How many famous people accept the responsibility to be our elder? So listen up, Chris said. These are Chris Pratt's 9 rules for living well. Number 1, breathe. If you don't, you'll suffocate. Number 2, you have a soul. Be careful with it. Number 3, don't be a turd. I don't get to say that in church much. If you are strong, be a protector. If you are smart, be a humble influencer. Strength and intelligence can be weapons. Do not wield them against the weak. That makes you a bully. Be bigger than that. Number 4, when giving a dog medicine, put the medicine in a little piece of hamburger and they won't even know they're eating medicine. It works with your kids too. Number 5, it doesn't matter what it is. Earn it. A good deed. Reach out to someone in pain. Be of service. It feels good and it's good for your soul. And remember, you have a soul. Take care of it. Number 6, God is real. Again, he said this at a Hollywood event. God is real. God loves you. God wants the best for you. Believe that. I do. Number 7, I'm not going to quote this one. He gives you a tip on how to poop at a party without stinking up the place. He goes into a lot of detail. Maybe it's useful. I don't know. Number 8, learn to pray. It's easy and it's so good for your soul. And number 9, probably the thing young Hollywood needed to hear the most. Nobody is perfect. People will tell you that you are, that you're perfect just the way you are, but you're not. You are imperfect. And you always will be. But there is a powerful force that designed you that way. And if you are willing to accept that, you will have grace. And grace is a gift. Like the freedom we enjoy in this country, that grace was paid for with somebody else's blood. Do not forget that. And don't take that for granted. Now, to see such an overt faith talk in Hollywood is rare. But he gets away with it because he's such a nice guy and he puts humor in the midst of it too. And that helps when you have to say important things. And the reason he says these things is because of something that happened to him when he was 19 years old. And he was out in front of a grocery store. A man approached him and said, Jesus told me to talk to you. So what are you going to do tonight? Alcohol? Drugs? Girls? And Chris said, I hope so. And the man said, if you come with me, I can show you a better way to live. And at that moment, Chris said, I was like, I have to go with this guy. And he took me to church. And over the next few days, I surprised my friends. And I declared that I was going to change my life. Now, maybe approaching people at the grocery store isn't really your thing. It's not really my approach. It's a little weird. But for Chris Pratt, it changed his life. He became a Christian because one guy took it seriously that found people, find people, pass out gold medals. That's Paul's message for us today. The church was called to be a maternity ward, giving birth to new, fresh faith, where the church was to pass out crowns of righteousness that last forever. Christ died to save all people. They can all win the gold, and that's the kind of church we are called to be. That's the kind of church. A church that is for people. A church that is for families. A church that is for the next generation. A church that is for our community. A church that is for the people of St. Charles. I want to close this morning by sharing the greatest benediction of them all. This is Jesus' final blessing before he leaves the earth. And he says it over his disciples in Matthew 28. It says this, "Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee to the mountain which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshiped him. But some doubted." And we do that sometimes. And now Jesus has to say something to them to encourage them, to bless them so that they can be a blessing. Now notice the place, a mountain. The old covenant under Moses started on a mountain at Mount Sinai. A mountain is a place of divine revelation. A mountain is a place where God speaks. Notice the people. This comes during a time of struggle and confusion for the disciples. Peter had just denied Jesus. The disciples as a whole scattered at the cross. They weren't even with him when he paid for their sins. Notice the posture. They worshiped him, but some still had doubt. It's in the midst of that doubt, though, that Jesus restores them. He's not intimidated by that at all, because he knows if his grace can restore them, they will do great things. And notice the power. Jesus says, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." It's not our power. It's his. This is where all Christians become the priesthood of all believers. We all get our commissioning for found people, find people. We're the church. We're the body of Christ. And then he says it to them, and he says it to you. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always, even to the very end of the age. Messiah, that is who we are called to be.